everybody. Welcome to Africa Thrive Live. My name is Naomi Kirungu. Really glad to have you as usual. I am in cold, super freezing cold Nairobi in Kenya. So welcome, get comfortable, get yourself some cup of chai or tea or whatever keeps you warm. And I'm joined here by my colleague Irene.
Hi, everybody. My name is Irene. I'm also based in a very, very cold city, Johannesburg. So Naomi and I are sharing the same weather, which is once in a lifetime. She's either cold, I'm hot, vice versa. So wherever you're joining us from, feel free, welcome. Join us in the comment section. Tell us about yourself, your business, where you're tuning in from. We want to celebrate each and every entrepreneur that's joining tonight. So please, please, please feel free to share with your friends. If you've got a friend somewhere, send the link to them. Naomi, we had such an interesting conversation last month with Sibam Tongana, an award-winning chef. Oh my goodness, that was one for history, for the history books. Is there a key highlight that you took away from that conversation with Siba?
Yeah, as you know, Irene, I'm such a fan of Siba. And if you didn't watch that conversation, you can go to the channel and watch it. And before we go to Siba, Irene, I was wondering who in Africa is in a country where it's warm? Maybe one of our guests, Malik, maybe. Feels like a lot of us are experiencing cold weather. Tell us in the chat. But going back to Siba, I think just Siba's personality and just how really, really practical she was and how she sort of used her brand in her journey in business and embraced it and her authenticity. I think that was really great. And speaking of Siba, Irene, I know we can't play favorites, but who has been your most favorite show we've had? Speaker that we've had on the show? Like who? Which guest? Let me give you time to think as I say mine. So I don't want to say favorites. So I'll say most profound at the moment. I think it was Munyutu, if you remember Munyutu, and his journey in this
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And also Bet, he was the founder of Papink. He was such an expert in digital marketing and very, very practical. I think that I remember. And of course, Enda, the shoe brand, the founders of Enda, the shoe brand. That was fun. Tell us on the chat, the people who are watching, which Africa Thrive Live do you remember? Is it your first time here? Go ahead and tell us in the chat. Irene, I have not forgotten. Who's your favorite?
So, oh my goodness, you mentioned Munyutu. He was also on my list. Rory Sang was amazing.
Oh yeah.
The owner, the founder and CEO of Roth Media. And we had, of course, Theo of Batu Shoes.
Yes.
Amazing. Yes. And oh my goodness, we've had so many people. I'm just trying to think. Matapelo of Y Cook was also splendid. So I feel like everybody has just been really amazing in terms of what they've shared with us and the lessons that they've left with us. I think that's what's really been exciting. And as we continue sharing this, please feel free, write on the comment section your name, your business, and where you're tuning in from. And if you've been part of the show from the beginning, which is last year, please tell us if there's any show that left something in you, or there was something that you learned from that show that's a highlight for you. And if you haven't watched any of those shows, the great part is you can still catch up, recap. You can go to our channel on Africa Managers on YouTube and check out all the past episodes.
Yeah, Irene, when you said that, I just wanted to put a big disclaimer. I think after our dry run today, I think today's guests are gonna be really exciting as well. I think very, very intelligent lineup of people that we have for you guys. So I think this is going to be one of our favorites as well when we look back at it in future. Yeah. So like Irene said, in case you are new here, just do what everyone is doing on the chat. Tell us about your business, where you're located. And Irene, you want to tell us more about AMI for the newcomers?
Yeah, so in case this is the first time you're tuning in and you're wondering who is AMI, AMI. I've had us being called AMI. The the abbreviation is actually AMI, which stands for the African Management Institute. We enable ambitious businesses across Africa to thrive, and we do this by providing them with the skills and the training that they need to succeed. And some of the ways that we do this, we'll be talking about it in a bit, but I have to mention this at the start. I'm based in South Africa, and so I have witnessed the unrest that went on in the country 2 weeks back. It was a scary time for most people. And, Naomi, putting in context the pandemic and the effects that the pandemic has had on businesses which are already limping, the unrest also has caused a lot of supply chain disruptions, a lot of businesses have been destroyed, a lot of livelihoods have been put at risk. So if you're in South Africa, you are an SME, we're thinking about you. And just to lend a helping hand, the AMI group has decided for a limited time only. You have to listen to this. If you are an SME in South Africa, for a limited time only, we're offering a full scholarship opportunity to you and your business. So it's basically you and 2 people from your business to join a business growth program that aims to help you stabilize your business. So, deal with all the implications that the riots and the pandemic has caused on your business and see how you can grow. So we will be posting details about this opportunity that you can share with your network so that we can help in rebuilding South Africa. We all believe in the future of SMEs, and we want to do our bit to help them survive. On the topic of survival, something else that we're doing at the AMI is we are building a community, constantly encouraging entrepreneurs to communicate, to get to network with each other from across the continent. So regardless of where you're from, you can join our Thrive community. If you've had us use the terminology Thrivers, it's the most amazing community, we promise. It's a community of like-minded individuals, entrepreneurs, and business leaders that come together. They have access to resources like what I've just mentioned, opportunities for scholarships that are going to be open soon. There's funding opportunities that you get to find out. So there's so much more to access from the Thrive community. So if you're not a Thriver, we'll be posting details of how you can join the Thrive community. You can be on the WhatsApp group, LinkedIn group, any group that you're conversant with or any channel that you're conversant with. So I'm going to take a pause, and as I do that, there's going to be a short explainer video on what the Thrive community is about.
Cool. So in case you're not part of the Thrive community, do join us, africanmanagers.org/Thrive. That's displayed on your screen, and we'll be able to really, really support your business to grow. We have so many resources there that you can plug into. So just to give a shout out to folks who've joined us, I see on Facebook we have Jimo Kabiru. He's an entrepreneur from Nigeria. I might have pronounced your name in a Kenyanese way. Then I realized you're from Nigeria, so probably pronounce it differently. From LinkedIn, we have Louis Anton from Kigali. Welcome. We have our usual Thriver Yekini Kolale from Lagos. Nice to see you again. Peter Otieno from Facebook has joined us, and he's the founder of a tech startup. We have multi-business consultants from SA, Steve Wambua, welcome from Nairobi. And we have a newcomer here, Ogu from YouTube. It's his first time or their first time to join. We have Tanzania, Dar es Salaam on LinkedIn, Gilbert, Emmanuel from Uganda, so many folks here, Fred from Nairobi, Samuel. The list goes on and on. Thank you so much for joining us, and do engage us and indulge us, as Irene would say, as we have this conversation about growth. So Irene, when I was reflecting about our topic today, and Irene and I were battling around, we do talk a lot about growth and this idea of scaling for SMEs, and we've talked about it in the show before. But the thing that is constantly on SMEs' mind, I think, when I was reflecting on this topic, is you're either, as when you're running a business, you're either thinking, am I making enough sales to grow? Or you're thinking, am I growing too fast and it's not going to become sustainable? I'm going to be cash strapped. So there's always like, you think when you get to a certain level, you'll be fine and business will be fine and things will take care of themselves. Then you move to another level of, okay, now I need more staff. Can I afford them? And you're constantly reevaluating your business in terms of growth. And growth is something that you think about all the time. It moves from just being sustainable to can I pay rent, to can I make payroll, to can I afford this inventory? So it's constantly on our minds, and that's why we are talking about it today. So that's what we're going to talk about in terms of what are the things that you can do from the guests that we have, and even your comments and suggestions as we read them in terms of growing at whichever stage in business you are and how you handle the anxiety of growth that exists in that particular stage. Yeah, we're going to talk about interesting things in digital marketing because that's a very emerging trend, and all things growth. Yeah, so stay tuned. And to have this conversation, I'm joined by two amazing guests. First, we have Fred Kithinzi. Fred is an award-winning entrepreneur. When we were reading his profile with Irene, we were like, those top 40, under 40 somewhere. He's going to tell us about that. And Fred has worked in companies like Google, IBM, where he spent a lot of time supporting businesses in Africa to meet their growth and digital transformation goals. When I read that sentence, I was like, that's it. That's exactly, this is just the right person for us to talk to today. And we're also joined by our colleague and he's the country manager in Rwanda. His name is Malik Shaffy, and other than being the AMI country manager in Rwanda, he wears many hats. He calls himself a creative operator. He's gonna tell us what that means. He's worked in brand marketing, in operations, so many things. He's gonna tell us about that. He's worked for big brands like Nike Foundation, Andela, and he also wears another hat as a co-founder of a business. So he's here both as an entrepreneur and an expert in terms of growth when it comes to AMI. So in our usual Thrive way, use those all those emojis you're seeing on your screen, the likes, the loves, the claps, anything, the giving, all those ones. Yeah, please help me welcome Fred and Malik on screen. Yay! Fred and Malik, just know there's a lot of ululations, hand claps happening in the background, yeah? So please introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, and let's start with you, Malik.
Yes, thank you, Naomi and Irene for introduction. I'm really excited to have a conversation today with fellow entrepreneurs. As you said, my name is Malik Shaffy. I am the country manager for AMI Rwanda. Beside that, as Irene said, I'm a creative operator. And the reason I call myself a creative operator is because most of the time in my career, I have found myself either doing creative related businesses or mainly also being involved in company growth or company operation. So for the last 10 years, I've worked with different institutions such as Nike Foundation, helping them to build a youth brand in Rwanda that aimed to impact adolescent girls. I've also worked with Andela as a director of operations. And before I joined AMI, I also worked with one of the leading tech company in Rwanda as a chief operating officer called AC Group, that basically in charge of or are leading in terms of creating smart transport solutions. So they provide a much smarter way of how Rwandans travel across the country. So beside that, I have done a couple of businesses. Some of them have been successful, others have been failing. But what do you do when you're an entrepreneur? So you learn and you iterate. So I strongly believe that the best spirit of an entrepreneur is not to give up. It's mainly to look at where things are going well and where things are not going well, and then how you can iterate that. So I'm happy to be here, and I'll be sharing my journey as an entrepreneur, but also as a person who has been working with 1,000+ businesses in Rwanda. Thank you.
Wow, wow. Thanks, Malik. And we hope we can have all those skills and all those experiences that you have put into words of wisdom for our SMEs today. Yeah. Let's go to you, Fred. Tell us about yourself, the business that you run, and everything that is Fred Kithinzi.
Thanks again. Thanks, evening, Naomi, Irene, Malik, and the audience. Such a pleasure to be amongst you. I think in introduction, you said most of the nice things. Naomi, I don't know what's left to say. Other than, yes, I'm an entrepreneur, which basically means I create opportunities around the internet ecosystem. And opportunity in terms of businesses. I'm currently CEO and founder of Belva Digital, which is an award-winning marketing agency, strong focus on digital, strong focus on growth for businesses. Before that, my background is in computer science, so I ended up a marketer by coincidence. I was lucky to get a job at Google, learned my art and skill from there. Sort of in terms of exposure, the internet ecosystem, how to monetize, how to create products that resonate with audiences. And then I transitioned into a sales role at IBM. And then, took the famous leap of faith into business. This is 8 years ago. Been fortunate to grow the business over that period into a top 100 mid-sized company in Kenya. We've also expanded our presence into a number of markets. Some of them we have a physical office in Uganda. With a small team there, we've been able to do work in Francophone Africa, DRC, Senegal, as well as our key markets such as Nigeria, Ghana, for a different number of clients. Some of them, some of the emerging startups we have, some of the established businesses we have. So it's an honor to be here. I think really looking forward to sharing what I know from business, what I know in working with SMEs and startups in the ecosystem. Thank you, everyone.
Wow, such impressive resumes. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, we are in good company, Naomi. So before we get into it, and we're going to get into the conversation shortly, please keep sending through your comments and your questions. If there's anything you're curious about, if there's anything that you've learned about growing your own business, share with fellow entrepreneurs. So I have a question for both of you, and I'll start with you, Fred. We all know about that media slump, when you get to a point where you're like, okay, 4 more months to push before the end of the year. So what's keeping you energized? Just one thing. It's a quick fire just before we get into the conversation.
Value addition.
Ooh, now I'm tempted to ask you more, but I'll pause there. Malik, what's that thing for you?
I will say target. Usually when you have those targets that you need to reach, and then you look at yourself like 4 months to go, how far am I with my target?
Yeah, that's really great. So I was just listening to Fred, you talking about your experience in corporate, right? And I always find it very fascinating when I hear somebody talk about their career starting from corporate and venturing in, taking that leap of faith into entrepreneurship. So what drew you into the sector? What made you think, well, it's about time, let me venture into entrepreneurship?
Thanks, Irene. I think two key things. I'm passionate about business in the sense of what value can you create in an ecosystem that was emerging, such as internet. This is 2013 when I went into business. So we had about less than 1 million Kenyans on Gmail. I think now we're probably over 10 million, so ecosystem was pretty young. Probably had Facebook was still a very young platform, relatively. So it was promising. So the numbers were promising. We could see appetite to go digital. I was encouraged by the exploratory nature of Kenyans. We like to try new things. That's why M-Pesa is what it is, So I felt this is an opportunity to get in early, to be able to test it out. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to corporate. So yeah, I think the main thing that drove me to go into business was that the opportunity that was in the internet ecosystem, and then secondly, what kind of jobs can we create for Africans? Yeah.
Wow. And for you, Malik, what was the drive for you to get into the entrepreneurship ecosystem?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I think I was born as an entrepreneur. My first business was in high school, and I was in S5. So that is like 1 year to graduate from high school. And they closed the canteen. So for some reason, they closed our boutique where we used to go and buy some chai and tea. And I was like, look, I will easily finish my pocket money, but I still need to make money, but there's also demand. Everyone is hungry during break time. So then I started to buy, like, I don't know how you call them exactly in English, but like this juice you buy, it's like 1 liter, but you can make it into like 5-liter juice. So then I was just buying some of those juice. One of them they call Adaptation. It's very popular in Rwanda. So it's 1 liter, make it into 5-liter, and then sell by cup. So I will sell like a cup to 100 francs, Rwandan francs. I don't know how that will be in dollar. And then buy a whole pack of biscuit and then sell just a piece of biscuit, because I could not get as much as food in the school. So then I'll try to do those type of things. So that's really where I started feeling that there is something in myself as an entrepreneur. And since then, I've been exploring opportunities of running my own business or doing something else. But also, if you're Rwandan, you know how Rwandans were so passionate about building our country. So with the 1994 genocide against Tutsi that happened, everything really was dismantled, and then Rwanda was from zero. So if you're in Rwanda, if you are Rwandan at that time, there's that we've grown really in terms of really building our country. So again, the drive of trying to build my country and then try to contribute to any single entrepreneur as I see, and provide whatever skills that I can support, give them to sort of like grow and then grow our country. That has always really pushed me to be part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about what I make, but it's also what I give to my fellow young Rwandans.
Wow. Wow. That's brilliant. Naomi, do you want to come in?
Yeah. I think just to pick it up, Malik, you talked about in the beginning how you've started and failed businesses. Let's make it two. What are 2 lessons that failing in business taught you?
So the number one is that it's okay to fail, right? I think it's okay to fail, as long as you understand why you failed, so that you don't fail again. So most of the time you find that entrepreneurs were really, really hard on ourselves. Like you took all your money and you invested in a business, and it's really not working. Rather than trying to find how you adjust, but trying to stick on that and keep investing. So it's really okay to sort of like take a step back and try to understand, why are you not succeeding? What is it missing? So what can you do differently? So a quick example I can give on that is that around 2016 I created a restaurant. And I don't know if anyone has been into a food business. It's one of the really good industry to be in, but also the most hectic. And at that time, I also had a full-time business, a full-time job. And I could not definitely do the management of my business. So I tried different things. I could see how potential it was. I was not ready to resign at my job. And I have built at that time a really great brand. And I was like, look, I cannot do both. I am failing to maintain this. I know one day I will come back and do this better. So I would rather stop where I am when I still have a really strong brand, so that when I come back, people will feel like they have missed me, they have missed my brand, and then they will pick it up, and I'll be really ready to provide same services. So yeah, so it's okay to fail. And the second thing is that you can't really not be a solo entrepreneur. It's really, really hard. It's okay to run your personal business, but as much as you can get a partner, please jump on the opportunity as long as the right partner. If you want to be a solo entrepreneur, please try to find advisors or be so close to your peers, which that's one of the reason AMI is here, to create platforms like this, so that business entrepreneurs can share ideas and learnings. But yes, I'll just to make it short, I'll say those two things.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Fred. So you take us back to 2013, where you're seeing this only 1 million users, you said, on Gmail, and a lot of opportunities on Facebook. So from that point in your business to where you are now, where you're a renowned brand, you're recognized, what are 2 things you've learned through that journey that you can share with younger businesses that are where you were in 2013?
Thanks, Naomi. Very good question. Should I stick to? I have 3. Should I say 3 or 2?
2. Okay, if you have 3, we can let them pass. 2 are
2.
always 2 sounds nice.
Yeah, 2 is good. Okay, I'll stick to instructions. So I think I'll pick up from where Malik said that often, businessmen or people, we are hard on ourselves. We want things to work out, and sometimes they're not. One of the things I learned quickly is you have to learn to embrace progress, and don't stall trying to get perfect, to be perfect in what you're doing, to be perfect before you launch, to be perfect before you open the doors. Start somewhere, like just scrap around and see what you can start. You don't have to have a fancy office. When I started out, I used to work off cafes, and I was very happy with that because I knew the expense that comes with, setting up in a physical office, and the rental income and everything else that comes with taking in such an OPEX. And then you grow with the moment. You just sort of ensure that you have a sense of purpose. You have a sense of where you're going. You're measuring your progress. So yes, first thing is often we get hung on the perfection bit, trying to get everything together in line, and so that then we can be able to say that I'm ready to leave job, I'm ready to go into business. Take that leap of faith, and if you're confident, if everything seems to tell you most of it, of course, do your due diligence, check the industry. Do the insights make sense? Is there demand for what you're trying to do? Have you done a small test to convince that there's sufficient data to go into it? Then start somewhere and then improve on it continuously. Then the second thing is, when you start out, ensure you have someone. If you're not a finance person, ensure you have someone strong on finance. Ensure that you intend to run a profitable business eventually, not a hobby. So don't start a hobby and just be happy you're making a couple of dollars and you have enough money to have a drink on Fridays. Start out with an intention to be a profitable, respected business that will probably outlive you. So, ensure you have good people around you, especially money matters, because most of us, you find you have good engineers, techies, product thinkers. In the case of Malik, he went into restaurant business, confident enough, in that respect. But often we don't have a lot of guidance in terms of mentorship, as earlier said, and often even finance. You find that, you've been running, but what are you really doing? Are you busy, just being there, or are you busy trying to really grow your entity? And in that way, of course, finances means you pay your taxes as well. So allows you to be in the safe side of government, because it always comes knocking.
Do you have connections with with government? I find that pretty interesting, but it's very right. In fact, somebody's asking about tax compliance, and we'll get into the questions very soon. So please keep sending your questions. We can see them, and we'll get to them shortly. So I just want to pose this question to both of you, Fred and Malik. Something that we've noticed is there's been a lot of issues that, especially now when we're looking at the pandemic and all the complexities that it has put SMEs in. You know, we can talk about all the difficulties pre-COVID, where people were talking about lack of finance, access to market. I mean, the list goes on and on. And now put in the mix a pandemic. What do you believe? Because I believe that there are people who are doing something right. Even in the pandemic, they've found ways to survive. They found ways to continue. And they're finding not only ways to survive, but sustainable ways to continue running their businesses. So what do you believe has been something, or the secret sauce to make these businesses stand out? Is there something that you believe that businesses need to be doing, if they're not, or businesses have been doing to survive this pandemic and to thrive beyond? And I'll start with you, Fred.
Thanks, Irene. Again, very good question. I think the businesses that have thrived in this pandemic are the ones that are very aware of what is happening in the market space and with the consumers. The first thing that happened with the pandemic is, we're forced to work from home, most of us, or some of us at least. Children are forced to do remote schooling. It became harder. Like Malik now, I understand, is locked in the house, can't leave to even get groceries. So life has been hugely disrupted. In the middle of it, we've seen businesses like Glovo in most of the markets have come in, were there, but because of the opportunity and demand that came with the change of lifestyle, they've been able to grow, and they've been able to, even meet the standards of quality, because often with demand, sometimes quality gets lacking, or maybe you're not prepared enough to be able to support the demand that has just come in. So I would say the businesses that we've seen grow and that will continue to grow are aware. And then secondly, based on the insights they're seeing, they're able to create products and services that then can supplement this demand, that can meet this demand that's come in. As we've seen with financial brands that have come in to be able to provide facilities for young people to be able to borrow right on their mobile devices. And they've grown, you've seen instances of remote learning, as we said earlier. We've seen a couple of startups have launched, a lot of fintech brands that have come in and have launched. So I think it's just being able to get the right insights and being able to capture a lot of insights and then turn those insights into a product that adds value to the consumers. And then I believe you can be able to thrive in whichever ecosystem, whether there's another pandemic or not. Yeah. So that would be my comment, Irene.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Malik, I'm just sitting here and thinking about a small business that's listening to Fred and thinking, wow, how do I actually put that into practice? How do I have my eye on my customers, my money, cash flow issues, and everything else that they're balancing? So what have you noticed in Rwanda that, and just generally with the entrepreneurs that you've worked with, what have they done to somewhat overcome the challenges that the pandemic has brought?
Okay, great question. Allow me to talk a bit about AMI before I share my experience. And I think really that's a good question to respond with my AMI hat, because I know that's why we are here, through this Thrive community, and then most of our programs that we have been creating were actually really talent to support businesses during the pandemic. And we have a lot of training materials, platforms that has been used by different entrepreneurs. Like, for example, in Rwanda, since December 2020 up to now, we have worked with 1,500 businesses in those type of areas. So if you really here trying to look out, thinking about where you can get skills, I'll advise you to check up on AMI. But on my personal experience, I would share two things. So one is stay relevant. I actually had this conversation, and then I want to really give a very practical examples on these two things. So one is that stay relevant, and then how do you stay relevant when you're on the lockdown? And like, how do you actually really be more overused to your customers? So I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who owns a gym business. And gym business was one of the most hit businesses. Not only that, during the lockdown, no one was going there, but even when the country opened, because of very strict COVID measures, gym were not allowed to operate. So my friend were doing a lot of social media communication, posting like old pictures, new pictures, asking people what favorite spots, telling people that they miss them. So he really was not demotivated by the fact that his business is not running, but instead he found a way to be more motivated and then stay engaged with his client. So you could really see that was really working, because the reason you can see that was working, even if when customers were not going to him, but you could see that they had sympathy, right? They will be like, I cannot wait to come to the gym. I miss this. I miss this. And every time when there will be a new cabinet resolution that says gym are closed, then you'll see people really sympathizing with him because he have stayed relevant to them and trying to communicate. The second thing is adaptation. You created your business before the pandemic, and you had this big vision and big mission of everything you want to do. But then, poof, here's the pandemic, right? Everything is changed. We are going to work from home, social distancing. People cannot come to your restaurant. You really have to understand how best can you adapt from your business. Do you do home delivery? Do you create extra services that you never used to provide before? This one is really different depending on the business. But a really nice example that is one of my favorite pandemic story is I know a friend of mine. He's a UX designer, and he also is a consultant. So before the pandemic, he used to do a lot of business consultation in terms of UX design. But he also was very passionate about food. So this guy, during the lockdown, he started making a lot of food and trying a lot of food in his house. And then after, when measures was level up a bit, and then he started making burgers for his friend. So eventually his burger became super popular in Kigali, and he started selling the burgers. So now literally the guy has moved from being a UX engineer to a home delivery burger brand. And then I'm telling you, as someone who have tasted on this burger, or someone who lives in Rwanda, he has the best burger in Kigali.
Oh, I think I was beginning to get hungry when Malik said that. I could feel the yumminess of that burger. Fred, as we wait for Malik to get back, you are an expert in terms of you're in the digital space, have been for many years, and you are a progressive guy, and your business is a progressive brand. What are you seeing out there in terms of emerging or very new marketing trends that are making you really, really excited about the future for small businesses?
Yeah. Thanks, Naomi. And I think Malik will be telling us more about the burger as we're all starving. I think one of the things we really seen emerge, and especially with the pandemic, is influencer marketing. Leveraging the power of not necessarily your celebrities. Sometimes it could be your guy with a few thousand followers. Some of us, we've been able to share some of the invitation to this, and I can see some familiar names coming in. So we all have some influence in some way or another. You all can get to 10 or 20 people into a room and be able to convince them about a product. I think, and for small businesses, it's created an opportunity where they can get another voice other than themselves. If you keep, Facebook, you're the only one that says your burgers are nice. Sometimes that may not be as convincing as inviting an influencer to come and dine in your restaurant and share this experience with your followers. which is then likely to bring in quite a number of people to your establishment. Whereas, of course, it's an emerging trend, and we've seen often the big brands have embraced it because they can afford that. For SMEs is to look at, can you do a value exchange? So if, for example, you have a makeup brand and a particular influencer who might be considerate of your product, you could send them a product pack and ask them, can I get an honest review of the product? As opposed to, if you cannot afford to pay them, of course. If you're a restaurant, you could invite them for a meal, say, bring your friends, the meal is on me, and get a value trade. So look at how you can, if you cannot afford to pay, can we barter trade? The other thing we've seen emerge is video content, and with TikTok, right? So TikTok just came out of the blues, and we're spending apparently 26 minutes in a day on average, right? That's African user. We've seen, people have emerged out of it and grown their followership to the thousands and so forth. And this is because of creating snackable video content. So if you look at your social media, most of us, we tend to do the lazy work. We tend to see what can we do quickly to keep the conversation and relevancy going. I think video is an opportunity that, and we for SMEs, you don't have to think of the production kit, of the Hollywood kit. I need to have a director of production, I need to have a camera guy, I need to have lighting. You can easily use your nice smartphones. Smartphones nowadays come with very good cameras. You can easily, take a recording, nice photos. You can easily edit on phones. They've got nice editing tools within our phones. So there are simpler ways in terms of creating video content that is authentic, and that can help you tell your story, because the most important thing for consumers to buy from you is your story. People don't buy the product, but people buy the story but around your brand, how it makes them feel, how they respond to it. They don't come to a restaurant to feed. They come to a restaurant because it makes them, maybe it's Instagram worthy. They come there and the tables and the kit and the doors and the service is extraordinary and they're happy to share. I think the other thing that we're seeing grow, the third thing, trend that we're seeing grow quite fast is data. A lot of us, we're sitting on a lot of data. May not be organized, but we need to organize it. If you have your customers in your phone, customer name, phone number, email, are you using that to ensure that you're sharing timely communication about your services or product? Because often it's not advisable to always try to reach new audiences. Your customers are very crucial, and they can bring in new referrals and can upsell to you and downsell, cross-sell to them as well. So look at your existing customer base as an opportunity to grow your business. Look at how you can organize the data. Start somewhere, start even if it's a spreadsheet, organize it somewhere there. Get a bulk SMS tool where you can be able to occasionally, don't abuse it, please. Once in a while, once in 2 weeks, for example, if you have a new product, you have an offer for Father's Day, for back to school, ensure your people know, because people buy from what is top of the mind. So if you're not top of the mind, don't forget. This competitive space most of us that are in. So organize your data. We're headed into cookieless world. SMEs may be wondering, what is cookieless? So basically, a lot of browsers will stop supporting the cookie, which most of us, we're always happy to accept. And basically, through the cookie, a lot of platforms like Facebook and Twitter and Google, they collect a lot of data around ourselves. So if Fred is accepting cookie everywhere, then they build a profile around Fred. They say, Fred is a father, Fred likes football, Fred likes cars, Fred is looking to buy a house. And then, advertisers like ourselves and most of us here, we rely on that data collected to be able to advertise. So with the cookie going away, means that the platforms may not be as accurate as they have been before, which means then you need to rely on the data you have, your own first-party data that you have of your customers, to be able to ensure that you're communicating. And if, for example, you have 100 customers every month, it's about 1,000 every year. In 10 years, could be more, could be in the thousands. So start somewhere, build a case around your own data, and I'm sure that will propel your growth. So yeah, those are three things I think for now that I am happy to. I think that we should all pay attention to.
Oh, Fred, you're very fascinating to listen to. and a lot of insights. Yes, you're very fascinating. Something I saw today on LinkedIn was the fact that Twitter is coming up with their own marketplace. I don't know how any of you guys feel about it. So the person who posted it was like, I don't necessarily go to Twitter to do shopping. But I guess my point here is there's a lot of tools and applications out there that can help you get your business. So it's about what works for your customer base. It's about what works for you as an entrepreneur. And keep exploring, keep learning, keep asking the whys. Ask as many whys. Yeah, Malik, I just want to bring you in and also get a couple of audience questions. Actually, if you could help me pull Samuel's question. Samuel Osia on YouTube is asking, what key departments should you focus on when building or starting your business? Malik, this is something we talk about a lot often, and I love this question as well.
Yeah, I also love this question, and it's a really good question. So I think it's a really interesting to explain this, but I will imagine that it's very debatable. But from my perspective is that when you just start a business, you barely have enough fund to create a department, right? So to start with, your own tax person, your own accountant, your own CEO, your own guy to go to buy water, or you have experience like Fred to work in coffee shop, etc. So I would say that when you start your own business, the number one investment you should do is investing in people. Find the right people to hire. I don't think necessarily find department, but look at your strength and look at your weakness, and then see where you can build the team around that so that they can be more complementary. I have seen someone asking a question about tax, for example. Then that means that you may find that your weakness is accounting, right? So it means that if you don't have a lot of money to invest for multiple departments, then you should at least now to invest in accounting. Another thing is that now with many startups in the world, a lot of business services has been outsourced. So again, is that rather than looking at which department do I invest in, is that who is the right people I need to be with me now, and then what are the services that I can outsource. So in that case, you don't have to feel like you are overwhelmed to have a team of 20 people, operation department, accounting department. So there is not really about A department or B department. It's much more of like, what is your strength? What is your weakness? And how could you create a really great team that are supporting it to each other?
Brilliant. Do you want to add something, Fred, to that?
I think certainly yes. I think what we've seen with COVID is talent has been decentralized. Before that, you always wanted to hire for every other need. If you had a problem with creative, you wanted to bring a creative designer. If you had a problem with your techie, can I hire more engineers? I think what you've seen with COVID is I don't necessarily have to hire everyone. I can decentralize my work. I can get a freelancer to support me. I can get a consultant to support me. I can learn the skill if this is something of interest. So as SMEs, only hire if you're really, really pressed. Don't hire because you're lazy to do the work. You have to, you realize that they lie to you when they tell you you're going to be your own boss. You tend to be your own slave. So more on the slavery side than the boss side. So.
Yeah.
So you have to put in the hours. Yeah, you have to put in the hours. You have to do the work so that eventually, if you hire the person, you can actually oversee what they're doing to a good level. You may not be the best programmer, but you've diced around, you've played around with front end and back ends and databases. Then they will not bullshit you. Oh, sorry, excuse my French, but they will not play around with those words. They will straightforward. So I think that would be my add on.
Yeah.
Irene. Yeah.
It's great. I think the children are sleeping, so French is totally allowed, I think. All right. Okay, I'm going to take another audience question from Mahmoud Bello. I'm so sorry if I haven't pronounced your name right, on LinkedIn. He's asking a very pertinent question that I'm going to pose to both of you. What is the best strategy to be adopted for revenue generation sustainably in this post-COVID period? So I would call it, we're still in COVID, but anyway, I think you get the point, specifically for small-scale agro-allied business sector. I'll start with you, Malik.
Okay, great. So I just have to start with a disclaimer that I don't have much experience in agribusiness. But I really think that the strategy during the pandemic in terms of business growth, it's really the same. So one is that during the pandemic, the most important things that you have to fight for your business is actually not business growth, it's business survival. I would say that the best strategy you can do, or the best adaptation you can do during the pandemic, is that how can your business survive, right? You may not manage to make income, but at least can you break even to literally survive, and then know that after the pandemic, I will continue my growth. So that would be the strategy one. And I think this will be really different from different business, depending on what you do. So that will be the strategy number one. So then the strategy number two is, as what Fred have saying, is that now the world is really open and there's so many things that you can learn into. So most of the time we find ourselves that whatever we are doing, we are not the first people to do this in the world. We might be doing it differently, but the idea we are doing it, we are not the first, right? Facebook was there when High Five was there before, and then now there is Twitter, there is TikTok, there is Snapchat, etc. So every brand are doing something differently. But if someone from Facebook go to talk to someone from Snapchat, they will learn something. So I would say as well that, and this is really more generic, that try to see if you can learn from your peers. Like, what is your next? What's the other person is doing that you can really quickly learn from that? So the world has been really, really open in that sense. I think to be really more generic, that's what I can contribute in terms of adaptation and a strategy to adapt to survive. But yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm not. I don't know much about agribusiness, but maybe Fred, you can compliment on that.
Thanks, Mahmoud, for the question. I think going with what you've asked in terms of small scale, not sure about your offering, but I think for in this case, you may want to look at first understanding where the audience is and what channels are they consuming. We've seen a lot of small scale farmers on Facebook in groups, creating specific groups to be able to communicate and support one another. Is it possible to penetrate that? So that could be a tactic that you can look at. Secondly, is it a business that's already existed? Do you have a customer base? Is it possible then to create a network marketing or multi-level kind of marketing where you incentivize your existing customers to recruit for you other farmers or like-minded people within that community? And of course, if they bring you a paying customer, then you give them something back. Have you considered community-driven activities where you actually go down to them? Because farming tends to be have little experience in farming as well. But we have a client we actually pitching who is providing agro-relevant products. So this is just coming top of mind, some of the things we're planning to propose to them. Yeah, so if you can think of the communities, how can you activate them during those sessions where you're teaching them? Because a lot of time is education. They often have a lot of questions they need answered, and they don't have a lot of channels where they can do that. That's why you find them, they forming groups, they like communities, they have associations, they have particular shows. Like, for example, Kenya, there's a couple of agriculture related shows. Can you sponsor? Do you have enough money to be able to sponsor them? Those programs run on radio and TV and the local dialect. So can you get into those pockets and spaces to be able to do that? So I think top of mind, Mahmoud, that's what I would suggest to you.
Cool. Fred, I want to ask this question particularly too, because I think you're the authority figure of digital marketing in this room now. So the digital space is becoming very, very competitive, and sort of some people would call it noise. And I just want to mirror Frank Mugarura's question about, so the first question is Frank's question on how do you turn likes, following, etc. into active buyers. And my question is, how do you stand out from the noise? And then Malik, you can chip in if you'd like to.
All right. Thanks, Naomi. A very tough one. And I think in terms of being able to turn noise, or what you call conversations, into conversions, conversation to conversion. Often it's a journey of three things. One is data, and I think I've reiterated a lot about data. So do you have the right likes? Because sometimes with obsession, when we all set up our pages, we were happy to just have likes, and we bought any like we could. We just advertised anywhere, and we got some likes, or some going to the extension of even buying likes, which is not recommended. So what you find is you have the wrong audience first, that may not be able to afford or resonate with what you're selling. So first thing is, a couple of things I said, is one is the data, consumer data. Do you have the right audience within you? Did you acquire the likes in the right way? Then secondly, the channel. Which like is this? Could be, again, we have likes on Facebook, and we have followers on Twitter, and we have followers again on LinkedIn and Instagram and so forth. So ensuring that the right channel for your right product. Sometimes that we could be selling makeup on Twitter. It doesn't work. We've had, I think we had an FMCG product, that number of beauty products. We did 3 years of marketing, and Twitter never sold for us, right? We've got some of the biggest, if you look at, for example, influencers, for example, in the cosmetic space, you'll not find them on Twitter, you find them on Instagram. So is the right channel? Are you the product versus channel? Yeah, that's a good, mathematics to work out. And again, that is based on, again, the data that you have on the platforms. You have to be either unhelped by the people, or be, of course, some of the sessions are helpful, or have a consultant tell you, we are in the agriculture space, where should we be? Social media doesn't mean you be everywhere. Please don't try to be everywhere. If TikTok is not for you, there's no need to spend time, waste time and money there. If you're targeting, for example, elderly mothers with a specific product for osteocare, supplements, TikTok will not be recommended, really. So when trying to have the right platform is going to be helpful. And then lastly is a creative. How are you communicating to your customers? If you're always telling them buy, they get bored of being told to buy. As I said, people are only loyal to their needs, not to your brand. People are not going to come to Facebook because they like you. They're on Facebook because they're there to have fun and to catch up with friends. And if they see something that meets their needs, so if they are in a situation where they need, for example, they need to buy a new phone, and you tell them there's a phone that is this price, and it's available, and it provides you XYZ, a nice selfie, whatnot, and that's what you're looking for, then you'll buy. But often you find that you've gotten, of those three things, the data, the channel, and the creative, you probably gotten one or two right. But if you can get all three right, you understand your audience correctly, then thirdly, are you using the right channels to be able to communicate, and are you communicating to your audience? If you get a good mix of that, then ultimately you start seeing some success, and ultimately build a story around your brand and your products. Don't be too obsessed with the product. Try to be obsessed with your customer needs and expectations, and then your brand will come, and it will ultimately see success. Yeah.
Malik, do you have any thoughts? Do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, so maybe I can just add in from the brand perspective. So one thing I can add on emphasizing on the last question in terms of how do you stand out in a very noisy place. I'm just going to use a little bit of street language now, but there is one of my best quotes that I like, that they say big brands shout. So if you are in a very noisy place, for you to be heard, you need to be louder. So really, that's the simple theory. But then just don't be louder for the sake of being louder. Be very strategic on how your voice is going to be voiced out and be louder. So what does that mean is that be true to yourself, find your own brand identity, and create your own brand voice. Like, who is your customer and how do you want to communicate to them? Not because Fred has done a video in his home, that's necessary that me doing a video in my home will be a success, because maybe my customers are much more office related people. So, and then if I produce my video at my office, then people would like it much better. It's really just try to understand your audience and then create your own unique voice for your business, and then find different strategy to be more louder than everyone. Like, be more strategic. Don't try to push yourself into a space that is already clouded, and you are going to be there as well with the same messaging, right? Like, running a business is not like, it's very different than joining a social media challenge. Do you know when they do the dance challenge and then everyone else is doing that? That's really fun and very creative, right? But for your business, it doesn't work, right? It's because everyone is doing that's hashtag. It doesn't really mean that your business should do the same. Although, unless if you want to jump on that opportunity and do something really cool about it and then be different. But the way you can stand out in a very noisy place is that you have to be louder, but create a different voice so that everyone can hear you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Authenticity is what I'm hearing around the table. Authenticity, stick to your messaging. It needs to be authentic, and customers will connect with that. So, just as we reflect on the really interesting times we live in, it's hard for us to, think about a post-COVID world. So, as we just think about where we are, what is the one skill? I'm just going to take one from each one of you, Fred and Malik. What is the one key skill you believe entrepreneurs need to harness right now for their business to survive and grow? I'll start with you, Fred.
I think it's ultimate consumer focus. Um, it sounds easy, but often we struggle with it as business people. We love our businesses, and what you're going to see and what we've seen so far is there's been changed behavior from consumers. So we when we become too obsessed with the consumer, then you probably pick out the trends. You listen out to them. What are the needs? If you can do quick surveys, simple surveys, on phone, on SMS, try to understand, is your pricing right? Are they preferring something else over you? For example, of course, if, as in Malik mentioned the example of a gym guy, he couldn't literally open shop. He had no option but to close and go home. But is there an option to do virtual gyms? Is an option to do that? Are your customers keen on such? We've seen, bars and pubs getting closed. If and most of us are mobile money guys, which means you've been collecting data. Is there an opportunity to deliver at home? Because again, every time I come to and have fun at your place, I end up paying with Pesa or Momo, whatever it is, and I leave my phone number with you. So you have an opportunity to see how can I turn my pub into a delivery. Can I, instead of firing the people to go home, can I turn them into logistics people, to deliver for me? So I think the ultimate skill for businesses that will thrive and that we need to have is just that consumer focus, just being aware of what's happening around us.
Very true. Malik?
I don't think I have much to add, actually. That was a good one to learn from Fred as well. Thanks a lot, Fred. But maybe one thing I can say on my side is that personally, I'm a very people person, and I strongly believe in community. So really, one of the things that you need to do is focus on your people as well. because this is the people you work with, either your employee or your business partners, are the people that made who you are the people that did put you where you are, right? You didn't do this by yourself. So I would say as well that really look up after your people. I have seen a lot of businesses that during the pandemic, they rushed into letting people go, or rushed into reducing salaries. Some of them really, they had no choice, but others did it because they wanted to keep a lot of money in the bank. And clearly, they sometimes forget that those people are the people that made them who they are. So please do not forget your people. And I'm talking about both financially and emotionally, right? You may not be able to pay someone today, but you can at least talk to them, right? Say, hey, let's not even say for sole entrepreneurs, sometimes you don't even have a team, but you have suppliers, right? Or service providers. Just call them, ask them what they do, how they are doing, anything you can support them, because you may need a loan from that person, or you may need a service from that person when you cannot pay. You may need a discount because you don't have money, and that person would remember that when you had money, you were there with him. When you didn't have money, you were there emotionally, and then now it's his time to pay back the favor. So yeah, so please also think about the people, and focus on that as well. It's really important.
Yeah, Malik, when you said that, just having been in this community of Thrive, where we have like over 10,000 SMEs, one thing we really picked up was, I was just impressed how small businesses did not let go of people. As I think they were the most empathetic in terms of keeping their staff. And I think it's really something that speaks to the heart of an entrepreneur, in terms of solving the challenges of a society, being a solution provider. So I was really, really impressed to see that when we surveyed the SMEs in our community. So I want to ask a question to you, Fred. Maybe you could speak to, you've talked a lot about the future and what's interesting, what's emerging, and what's happening in terms of the future of marketing, of brands, of businesses. What is one thing that is making you very optimistic about the entrepreneurship landscape, particularly in our continent?
Thanks, Naomi. Very good question. I think the one thing that's really making me optimistic, at the same time quite worried, is our population. Africa is going to have the youngest educated population in the world. I think I saw somewhere Nigeria is going to have about 400 million people by 2050. That's Africa's largest economy to date. If you look at that growth, which means we have to create opportunities for this generation. The beautiful thing we've seen is, as you can see in this setting, a lot of Africans, because necessity is the mother of innovation, we've gone out to create opportunities from the problems we face today. We see the problems, but we also, at the same time, we see opportunities. If that is nurtured, I believe we'll be able to get to a point where, as we grow, there's complementary opportunities available for employment, because not everyone is born to be in business. Business is not. So people will prefer to the safety net of employment, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But ultimately, I think there's opportunities in that. And as the other thing is, we're seeing internet numbers are growing. Internet users are going to cross 600 million users by 2025. Again, you have an audience that is online, that is young, that is educated. And if they have money, that means there's going to be growth in consumerism, which is basically they need to consume, they need to go to restaurants, they need to fly about, they need to purchase items. So we're going to see growth generally in our economies. I think positively, that's encouraging. I think for anyone who's trying to get into business, You have to get into the long haul of it. I think, as opposed to hoping for a quick win in a year or two. But I think the data really points to positive, impact and successes. I think that.
Yeah. Thank you, Fred. Malik, how about you? What are you optimistic about the future?
Yes, I think youth is one of the things Fred have said about it. I'm really also really excited on the power of communication that people are grasping, and the power of people understanding, creating products that are relevant to the market. So I'm sure that we all have this thing when a few years ago that the only thing that you could trust in a supermarket was a European product, right? I don't think it's the same anymore. Like there is a lot of made in your country that you're really looking for, or the made in Africa that you're looking for. And that really says a lot for Africans. It means that we are understanding ourselves and we are understanding that we can create our own product. And also we are understanding that we can create not only just from the content perspective, even sorry, from the product perspective, even from the service perspective, or the communication perspective. So we are understanding the power of doing things that we are relatable, right? We don't need now to see an advert. Even if you do now, if you're in Africa and then you do an advert with a Westerner, right? That no African won't really relate that much because they hate that person or because they're being racist or ever. It's because they're just not relating their life to that person. So we are really now understanding ourselves and then trying to create things that are much more into our own context. And I'm so excited to see what that is going to give us. And then, by the way, the most example that everyone in the world gives is M-Pesa. So M-Pesa was the most innovative mobile digital, financial digital solution that was created by Africans for Africans that were really, really successful. So and that now M-Pesa is a multi-billion company, but then we see a lot of other businesses that are coming in that sense. So I'm really, really excited for more contextualized made in Africa services, made in Africa products that will be coming. I'm super optimistic on that.
Yeah. I'm also pumped to see what Africa can do. I'm a believer in Africa finding its own solutions to its own problems because we have the problems and we have the solutions. So it's great to see that we can rewrite our own narrative in Africa. So it's been such a pleasure to have you too. But before I let you go, I always ask this question. I know we're out of time, so I'm going to keep it real short and I'm going to ask you to be very concise and brief. I'll start with you, Malik. What are you most grateful for? Just one thing.
Can you ask the question again, please? Sorry, my internet broke.
Not a problem. What are you most grateful for?
Okay, great question. I think I'm very grateful for my life, that we are all alive now and we can be very optimistic for the future.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And you, Fred?
Yeah, I think I'll echo Malik. In a continent where only 1% has been vaccinated, I think I'm really grateful to be healthy. I'm grateful to be having this conversation with you all. Thanks to AMI, grateful for invitation. Thanks for the audience for being part of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you both. I'm really, really grateful that we had an opportunity to engage with you. There's so many questions coming up and lots of comments. We would love to thank our guests tonight, Fred and Malik. It's been such a pleasure having you. And of course, to our audience who make this more exciting for us, for Naomi and I, it's both a learning opportunity for us. And we hope you got a lot of useful tips tonight. And, if you want to reach out to either of our guests, you can reach out to them on LinkedIn. Fred is on LinkedIn. You can look for him. That's Fred Kithinzi. There's a link that's been posted there, or it will be shared just shortly. And of course, Malik is Malik Shaffy. You can also find him on AMI's platform. So you can go to our website. You can find out more about what we're doing in Rwanda. You can find him also on LinkedIn. It's really been awesome. And as always, if you're not part of the Thrive community, you're missing out. Join the Thrive community. Get to connect with other entrepreneurs. Let's navigate together. I've been your host, Irene Okoye from South Africa. Thank you for indulging us. And with me has been my ever consistent, lovely co-host, Naomi. And it's been a blast. Keep safe, stay safe. See you next time. Thank you.